Welcome, Hurricane fans of Eve Echoes. Um, I am Zoogle of Saints and Sinners, and I'm going to give you another tour, a second tour of this hurricane. And for some reason, this hurricane survived, so I reckon it's quite a good build. If you can get a decent ship to survive some of the PvE and turbulent times that we're having at the moment within Eve Echoes, and the latest patches and so on, and all of the different unknowns that keep happening, like exploits for gate camps and so on, then then you're lucky if you can keep a ship going. So let's take a look at the basic settings for this hurricane. I'll also try and go into some skills. My character I use for running this is fairly well skilled in battle cruisers and medium cannons. So let's take a very quick tour. So it's important to note that a hurricane obviously uses cannons. These cannons that I'm using on this particular ship are the Justum C-type medium auto cannons with just under 99 DPS, as you can see there, so 98.37. In terms of meta level, they are 11, so they're going to be the highest that we're likely to get in the current Eve Echo setup. Optimum range. Now you've got to be careful with this. So obviously this ship likes to be within the 4 kilometer optimum range. But the good thing with cannons is you get this accuracy fall off. So beyond the 3.66, you almost have like a drop off effect. It's if you're firing a real bullet. Just imagine that. Imagine a bullet flying through the air. It will eventually drop. It'll sort of raise slightly and then drop. And that's the sort of dynamics that you've got going with this. And that will realistically mean that you'll sometimes, probably less likely to hit, but at the same time, your damage is going to drop quite dramatically. And some people have some amazing gifts out there to represent what happens, so I'll see if I can get one into the YouTube comments. And it is a really good gift that sort of demonstrates fall off and what it does for your damage. Tracking speeds, so if you've got a lot of transversal going on, fast ships flying around, your cannons literally have to move around to try and hit that target. If the tracking speed is too slow, you're going to find you're going to hit less or just not hit at all. There's been recent videos of this ship against a Daredevil. Daredevil being 14 kilometers away, flying around crazy speeds around the hurricane, and the hurricane just couldn't move and it couldn't hit because the tracking was too low. Now tracking isn't necessarily a bad thing for PvE, so this particular ship that I fly, I don't need to have anything special for PvE. This ship can solo a lot of the T8 story missions quite happily. It can also solo large amounts of the T10 story missions too. So some of the really hard missions that are in the game, this ship is actually capable of doing them. Plus you've got to have the skills and so on, but the fit at the moment is good for that. What I have to add is tactics. There are other videos where you see us using different tactics within our corporation. Usually you go in at a big distance. People call it kiting, where you go in and out and you're hitting them from a distance. But actually it sort of works for the Hurricane too, regardless of the shorter range. So what you'll find is that you can start off at a longer distance, and because you're taking time to make your way to zero, you're getting the faster ships first, so they're being picked off, and typically they are the more elite ships. The faster ships, the ones with the webs and the scrams, tend to be in those first waves. So once you've got past those first waves, this ship is really able to then cut them down. Reload times got me really confused at the start of this game. I was thinking reload time was your activation time, but it really isn't. Your reload time will be a future feature for potentially changing ammunition, like what we see in EVE Online. So EM rounds, thermal rounds, explosive rounds, that is likely going to be a thing in this game, but for now it's a bit of a redundant figure. So activation time is how quickly this weapon is able to deploy those different damage types we see at the top. So every 4.78 seconds it is deploying those different damage types to a target, and then that target has obviously got its own resistances, and then you end up with your end result of DPS once you take into the time factor. So this is a very good weapon for something that's not realistically being boosted necessarily on the ship. So you'll see the majority of the fits I've got in place are actually for defense. So I go in as a shield tank. Now, shield tanking is probably one of the best it's ever going to be in Eve Echoes. I imagine it's going to get nerfed at some point, but shield tanking is really brilliant. Now, to assist with the tanking, I fitted a System C-type medium shield booster there. So this is what's actually going to repair your ship. So every 4.71 seconds, I am getting a boost amount of 475 to my shields. So it is a decent amount. This is probably one of the biggest you're going to get from a medium booster anyway, before you go into the large boosters. But large boosters are going to have a lot more draw from your from your power grid. So the activation cost there is actually from your capacitor, I should say. But the power grid, quite small for the mediums when comparing with the larges, which are into the hundreds of megawatts, rather than just the tens of megawatts. Now, I also carry two System C type adaptive invulnerability fields. So they apply a nice steady resistance across the board. Now, with two of these, unfortunately, this isn't going to have a straight base effect of plus 36 and so on. Unfortunately, there is penalties when you apply more than one, so it doesn't in the descriptions tell you that there is a reducing sort of factor to it. So we're not going to go into the details of that, just that the end figure isn't going to be exactly the straight numbers added together. Activation counts are negligible when you've got this type of fit. So long as you've got the right rigs, you'll find that the regeneration rate of your capacitors, this is negligible now. I also have a reactive shield hardener. So the reactive shield hardeners, if you add them to adaptive hardeners, add a little bit less when it comes to the resistances. Plus, you still have that penalty, but there is this funky resistance shift going on. So this is where you have an incoming attack type, and effectively what the game does and what the shield does, it will apply some of that damage taking to some of your higher resistances. So it sort of spreads out that resistance. Now, from what I've heard from other players, it's only realistically good against Armar. It's not necessarily great against many other of the empires out there, but it's handy to have. It does give you that little bit of extra resistance. And because I'm in a hurricane, which is Minmatar, and Minmatars are known for being quite speedy, it's nice to have a decent afterburner on this ship, which is adding 171% to the velocity. So we'll launch in a minute to see what sort of speeds we can get. But what that will enable us to do is to actually take less damage. So we're creating movement, we're creating that sort of transverse, we're forcing tracking, and essentially we are limiting that damage that we're taking to our ship. So the faster we can go, the better, realistically. So we've got there simultaneous activations. You can only have one of these things going. You can fit larger ones if you want a decent boost, but again, that's going to affect your power grid. And I keep talking about the power grid on the ship. At the moment, this current setup, I'm using 800 out of 1181. Now, realistically, one of the biggest reasons for that is because I've got a PvE fit, and I've got the closer range auto cannons. If I was to go for the longer range strike cannons, which have a lower DPS but a lot further range, we end up in a situation where they are using more power grid because they're throwing heavy metal objects, explosive rounds, and so on, far out to hit targets. I have fitted a drone. I've got a Mark 7 Valkyrie in there, something which just give me a little bit of damage. Some people like to fit, the anti-EM type drones, the Amar drones, but I just stick with the race bonuses. It's nice to have a little things of the same empires floating around. A nice little ship. Realistically, it's just for anything that gets close. It'll hardly ever apply its DPS of 20, and half the time I think I forget to activate it. I have a web on there, interrupted stasis web with fire, so more than 50% of a ship's velocity will be reduced. This is only really used by this ship if you get the frigates and destroyers that get too close to you. You can grab them, you can slow them right down so their transversal is reduced, so you can actually hit them with the autocannons. And we don't have that similar situation like what we've seen against the Daredevil, where realistically you can actually hit a target rather than have it run circles around you. So Tartar, if you're listening in, it's because this is out of range. Couldn't slow you down, dude. And I think even then, if I could slow you down, yeah, I still think you'd be too fast. It's a great ship, that Daredevil, absolutely brilliant. So looking then at other modules in the mid slots, we've got a NOS there. So the previous iteration of this ship, I did have two NOS. Now that's because this ship is a brawler. It's a tank. It gets in close. The safest place for this to be is probably circling a battleship. Because you're too close to the battleship for it to hit you properly. And so long as you're attacking then all of the ships around it, and you're draining the energy using this NOS from said battleship, then that keeps your capacitor topped up. And on large targets like battleships, you get a nice level of NOS pouring in. And actually from PvE sort of ships, so from the computer generated ships, I think they've got like an infinite cap anyway, so the NOSes will always continue to drain energy because of the way the mechanics work in the game. Now its optimal range is 9.89 kilometers there, so just under 10 kilometers, but we're operating as close as we can to the actual weapons, remember, so we want to be at around that 4 kilometers distance whenever we're kind of circling ships. So around 3 kilometers I try to add, so the little bit of speed that we have, we're circling at a really good distance. Now the main difference between this fit and the previous one is this large group shield booster. Now they're quite the favourite within Eve Echoes at the moment. You can only get the Mark 7s. I don't think there's any special of these out there at the moment. What they will do is they will blast a massive shield regeneration field, I suppose is the best way of saying it, out on a 24 kilometer optimal range. So if you're within that 24 kilometer optimal range, you will receive a 412 boost to your shield, which is nothing to be sniffled at. Remember, if we have a quick look at the shield booster there, we'll see that that's 475, so it's only a little bit less than what you get out of the best shield boosters. But these shield boosters, the personal ones, are an activation time of 4.71 seconds, where the large here are 20 seconds. So you can get more than 4 times, realistically 4 times, with a personal booster than what you get with one of these. So the equivalent is obviously a lot more with a normal booster, but you're using cap energy, and that's the next thing, fuel consumption. Now fuel consumption, we have to consider what type of fuel we're going to use. Now the best fuel in the game, and you can mine it from planets and so on, is plasmoids. So plasmoids, very, very, very efficient, and if you were to buy them on the markets, relatively expensive. Obviously you don't want to go all the way to null there to pick that stuff up. That looks like big to me, but you can pick that from Jitter for 2,800, so price per unit, so they are relatively expensive for something you're going to use quite a lot of. We will look to see how much drains out of that, and we can move items into a nearby hangar whilst we're going to play with this. But we've got 244, so we'll do a little bit of maths later on with one bounce of that and see what we get to. So next we're going to look at some rigs. So we'll start off with our defensive rigs, where you can have either your combat rigs, I think is what they're referred to as. But for the defensive rigs, go down one at a time. We've got an anti-EM screen. So shields, massive hole because of the physics of it all and weapons firing. There's big holes in shields. You get a base of like 10%. So to up that base, it's worth investing in an anti-EM screen. I think market-wise, they're not too bad at the moment, 40 mil. So after a mission or two, you've got enough to buy one of these things. It's worth investing, certainly if you can look after your ship. For a shield boost amount bonus, so whenever we use our personal boosters, it's worth having this 30% adjustment. So again, a meta level 2, the economizer 3, which comes at it's reasonable sort of price again, 16 million or so. That gives you that additional boost per hit. Then we've got the capacitor need reduction. So if we did leave our shield booster going and going and going, it's going to massively drain our capacitor. So, to have 20% less after 5 boosts, we've effectively got a 3 boosts worth of energy still left behind. So it is worth it, certainly for the longer term. And again, not massively expensive. So, these are the sort of Tech 3 stuff. The level 3 stuff is quite affordable at the moment. It's probably worth actually investing in some. Don't watch this video and go out and buy them all, because I'm going to try and buy some later. Now, what is expensive, and why I've not got some crazy expensive ones on my ship, are the engineering rigs. So I have 2 semiconductor memory cells only at the Tech 2 variant. Now again, the quick market indicator there of over 100 million is just a slight under exaggeration of sometimes what these can be. But at the moment, the 79 million, which isn't too bad, but remember this is only the Tech 2 variant. Again, well over the price of anything we see for most others. And I believe you are into the hundreds of millions, but they've come down in price, so that's not too bad. And the reason why you have 2 of the capacity multipliers, so they're adding 20% on, is that they can stack, which is great. But if you increase, just like in EVE Online, your capacity max, you also increase the amount they regenerate, because it's based upon the whole as a percentage. So you're actually increasing the amount that you regenerate as well. Now, what I want to be able to do, because I shouldn't be going down too much in cap, so we invest in the capacitor recharge time. So we get a 12.5% reduction in recharge as well. I mean, these things, again, relatively expensive. This one's not too bad. I mean, if we were to go for a capacitor control circuit on the market at the minute, let's have a quick search through. Let's go to engineering rigs, capacitor control circuit there. Let's have a look at how much the Tech 2s are. Straight away, 126 million. Wow. So the difference between 20 million plus some. 100 million more for the next level up. I mean, let's just see. Let's have a laugh. Let's have a look at the really expensive. Oh, ouch. 400. Ooh, that's that's people spending real money on this, I think, if you're getting to that point, because realistically, is it needed for a PvE runner? Well, hopefully some of the videos that I've shown will demonstrate it's not necessarily needed for PvE. For PvP, I can completely understand why you'd want that extra edge, but is it worth the risk you're going to pay if your ship goes pop? If you've got a couple of billions worth of ship, it's probably worth the risk. But yeah, you're probably looking at throwing real money into the game to be going down that route. So that is the quick overview of the rigs and so on. Just want to take a moment to have a dig at game creators at the moment. Why are there no skins? The Hurricane is a very popular ship, I'll have you know, and the lower variants of the Hurricane and so on have skins. So surely it's not too much of an effort to copy and paste and give the Hurricane a skin. Give it a Zoogle skin, please. I fly this ship quite a lot. I'd love to be able to drop some money into the game and just give me a pretty skin. And I think a lot of us out there probably think the same. A couple of quid, get us a new skin, and we've got a very personalised game then, and we want to look after our ships more. But the Hurricane itself is a brilliant ship. I mean, we'll have seen some of these stats converted into when you see the cannons and so on when I was clicking through. But the skills are really what make it better. So the roll bonuses, so what this ship gives you from the base in terms of the cannon optimum range, the accuracy fall off, they make it a really good ship for actually getting into a PvE scenario and actually maneuvering in close to where you want to be. You can do damage on the way. You'll easily hit 25-30 kilometers. It's not going to be a lot of damage, but you can easily put those hits in. And then when you're looking at the skills elements to this now, so the advanced medium cannon upgrade bonus per level, You get 3% per level on damage. So, work that math out. And then you've got a minus 3% to the activation time. So the rate of fire increases. And that's why I've got a pretty good rate of fire on this. And there's no need for additional weapons rigs on this. The DPS on this ship is good enough for PvE. It really is. And then flight velocity. So we've got the afterburner. We've got a lovely piece of flight velocity. So let's use it. And we get some good speeds, which we'll show you in a short while. Command bursts, they're not out yet at the minute. Again, another feature which, it's nice to have it there, but have these things just been copied and pasted from EVE Online? Sometimes you kind of think maybe they are. Now, we will look at the different attributes later when we're actually running some of these rigs, in modules, sorry. But, we've actually got some very, very decent stats with this ship. The signature radius, it's not too bad. There is worse out there. Capacitor recharge times, it's very nice. The percentages on the shields and so on, we're going to look at when we actually start running our modules. But the base hit points there, the only thing that is, there's sort of one other ship out there that's better. But we all like the Hurricane anyway. So yeah, we do prefer that. We all love it, don't you? Everyone nods. So DPS 708, let's just take away that drone. It's realistically not going to be doing much. So 688 DPS is what we've got. It's nothing to be snivelled at for a ship that is doing nothing module wise other than the drone towards DPS. 7 cannons. It's an amazing achievement from this one ship. Now, the capacitor there is showing a time when the NOS is also being applied. So in terms of our capacitor and recharge rates, clearly it's saying there that if everything's running, including the NOS, and the NOS is pulling in power as well, I'm going to last 20 minutes. Now, it is a bit of a strange figure. It's realistically, if you were to remove the NOS from your ship, so if I was to unfit that NOS, you're looking at the realistic time because you're not always going to be close. So in terms of time here, if everything was turned on, this ship could last 3 minutes and 28 seconds before I run out of capacitor. So if that's my shield booster was constantly going, all my modules, including the afterburner, are constantly going, I want to be quickly trying to get out of a scram range, a warp disruption range of a PvE target whilst I'm doing that. Chances are, though, there are ships around you that you're able to get energy from, so you are going to get that longer time. And you don't have to have afterburner running all of the time. You don't have to have your shield booster running all the time. It's a bit of a balance, so you will find when people play this, it's not just turn on all modules and AFK it. You do have to do a little bit of management of your capacitor and of your shields. It's like a bit of a juggling game, a bit of a scales. Shields on one hand, capacitor on the other. And you do have to balance it out. And I find that 50% mark on each is a good indicator. So if you're down to 50% shields, well, you need to be activating all of the shield regeneration you can. If you are down to 50% on capacitor, but you're quite high on shields, then guess what? Let's just turn things off so you get a bit more regeneration, because you don't know when that next wave is going to come along with a surprise elite in it, which will end up, especially Amar, it will end up neutralizing your energy with a big, large battleship, and then you end up with no energy and you've got to try and run away. But we hardly ever get into that situation, don't we? Now let's just see how this all plays out. So let's undock our latest office down in Noni there, a lovely office if you want to do anything for anything sort of Caldari PvE wise. Lovely big stations, these. Very sort of blocky, aren't they? I love the graphics in this game. It's amazing what you can do with mobile phone games these days. Looks so much like the EVE Online I've been used to. So, okay. Let's first of all see how much of a speed we can get out of this. Let's go head over that direction. Let's turn on our afterburner there. Now as we're just powering up there, obviously it's not an instant, you can see I've split everything away from my first page into this main page. You can see cannons I've grouped into pairs where possible, obviously because I've got an odd number, one has to be 3. I actually find, whether this is the intention or not, I actually find that you get a better hit result if you've got your cannons doing like a staggered fire. So fire, 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 and then they go around their 4-second reload times, and then they all fire again in that ripple effect. I don't know whether it's a game mechanic, I don't know if something's wrong, but I tend to find when all 7 fire together, they will, if one's going to miss, they will all miss. So I don't know if that's a dodgy game mechanic or maybe it's a bit of serendipity. I imagine more the latter. But that's what I like. I like to be able to do that. It's also nice to be able to pick out different targets as well. So we also have our afterburner going, and we've maxed out there, it looks like 763 meters per second. Now whilst you're kind of sat like this, because it takes a bit of cap drain every time this goes around, and we will have the capacitor sort of recharge, we'll end up going between sort of 89 and 90% quite often because you get the initial activation. So you don't actually sit at 100% when you've got things going. You sit at around the sort of between the 70 and 80 mark. Now, if I have my shields going, turn on the 2 adaptive first, and then the reactive. We can now have a look at our actual active defenses. So our resistances there are lovely and high. An EM resistance of 80% on what we've got. So against the likes of Armor, where they do EM and thermal, we're putting in some good resistances. Plus, we're going to have that the reactive shield hardener, which is going to spread out the damage some more. So that should also help. But yeah, between 72 and 82% across the board is a win effectively, and that's the effective hit points of 7444. It's absolutely brilliant. It makes a massive difference, and you will see in the different videos that we do record, this ship does take a pounding. It really does, but we're able to sort of balance our capacitors and so on. Now, from here, we want to be able to test our shield boosters as well. So what I'm going to do, we can start in close and we'll get one cycle going. We will look at our fuel, see how much we've got. So we've got 244. So hold on, because I'm a simple person, I've got to get a calculator ready on my machine that's beside me. By the way, this is all on the mobile phone as well, so I try to be authentic with this as much as possible. So I'll get my 2 and 3 4s typed in there because I can't think and talk and demonstrate this at the same time. And we're going to run one cycle of the group booster. Now the effects are absolutely brilliant of this thing, of the group shield booster. We click that there. Boom! There we go. And this massive bubble gets thrown out, and it almost looks like a Sino field, realistically. And anybody within there would have got that 400 plus shield boost. So it's nice. So if you are following somebody in your fleet, then yeah, you can actually see everybody get their boost, which is absolutely brilliant. But let's look at our hold. So realistically, we started with 2 4 4 4. Take away 2 4 3 9. That used 5 plasmoids for that one boost. So it's one of the most efficient fuels out there. Sometimes you're going to be using it constantly, so if you do really start to feel the heat, you're going to use it constantly, but it just gives you that little bit extra extra few percent to your overall boosting of your shields. And you see there a lovely effect as the shields keep sort of boosting it around. I could demonstrate it in these local rats that are around here, but realistically I think the local rats, certainly the level 3, I could probably just sit still and watch them pop. So I'm not gonna do that here, but you will be able to see future videos of the demonstrations of this ship and other ships that we've got within our fleet. So I'm not the only person that you'll see talking around. You will see the odd other PvP, PvE videos floating around. We are just a corporation that love to have fun in this game. Our corporation has got some lovely buyback programs. So if you mine something, we will pay you for it at the corporation rates, which tend to be above the market rates, weekly fixed-in rates. And yeah, we've got a lovely system in place for that. PVE, I mean, you can just see there, we've got Tata there shouting out that he wants to be able to help somebody, fleet. He's got some time there. We've got some great programs for splitting ISK. So if you do have some of these lovely T10, T8 missions, a lovely program for working out how to split that. Just look at this ship turn. I'm in love with the ship. It's absolutely amazing. It's one of the only reasons I kind of stuck with the battlecruiser. Now, hopefully, when we have the likes of the sort of T9 hits and so on, we'll be able to go logistics with this and do some more demonstrations. But just to cover some of the skills that I have with the ship, because they're quite important, I am doing cruiser commands. We can do other videos with this because I'm getting as far as I want realistically with what we have. So battle cruiser command, advanced battle cruiser command. So let's just see what the skills were on this ship. So let's have a quick come out of all this. Go into ship info, have a quick look. We want just the battle cruiser command for its velocity bonuses. So anything else in advanced, and expert isn't going to get us any of that bonus. It's going to be nice, it's going to help us, but it's not going to really give us anything for our ship bonuses. So having maximum battlecruiser command is where we want to be, and anything else is just a complete bonus. Now, the other bonuses we get from this ship, away from the role, are the advanced medium cannon upgrade. Now if we go to cannons, you'll see most things are lit up within cannons as character. I just absolutely love cannons. So we've got medium cannon operation is at 554. The upgrades we've got 553, so I've got maximum on the advanced medium cannon upgrade there. So all of the medium skills that this particular character needs, we're doing pretty well. 553 tends to be the accepted decent maximum. You can push yourself if you've got the number of days in your respecking and so on, but realistically that's all you need to be is 553. So we've got what is perceived as a good maximum there. Maintenance technologies, because I'm a shieldy person, I love shields. Again, high skills on all of these. So it's worth investing in this technology. I've got a one there for the future for expert remote shields, so you do actually get a range bonus from this. So the group shield booster mounts as well. You do get some extra skills from there, so I've advanced in that so we can as a group heal. We have here battle cruiser defense upgrades, so I'm a 553 for that. So that's providing a lot of base hit points. Advanced is providing some more percentage increases across the board, and experts also gives a little bit extra as well before it goes to the next level. So very, very good skills there. Engineering, so in order to fit a lot of the large weapons and so on, especially when you get to the strike cannons, you need to have this battlecruiser engineering, which gives you that additional power grid needed, and capacitor bonuses as well. So capacitor capacity is a good one as well we've got there before we go into experts. So that will be the next level, but it's not needed for close-up range ship. So that is the Zoogle ship for most of the PvE. That brings in a lovely amount of ISK. You just run a few missions every week and it keeps you going quite nicely. The ship itself, if you were to buy these things on the market, let's have a look at the current market. 329 million, so quite expensive. What you'll find is our corporation will build it, say, for 300 million, and our industry within the corporation can build that. We can get quotes, and they're typically well under the market rates. So any ship you want, look at the market rate, and typically you get a good 5 to 10% off. You can't avoid a lot of the fees, transactions and so on, but it works quite well. So yeah, that's our lovely pretty ship there. And let's just take a moment to appreciate. In fact, let's take a moment to appreciate the sun. You know, people always, oh, it's a pink star as well. Very, very nice. Let's warp to a lovely pink star and appreciate the game. Absolutely beautiful. Gotta love the warp speeds. Gotta love the alignment. There's something very amazingly sci-fi about the way we maneuver in this game. Oh, getting close to the sun. Boom, there it is. Oh, amazing. You see the little flares and everything pop up. And you get the slightly purpled and, you know, oversaturated sort of brightness on your ship as well. In reality, probably melting your hull right now, but, you know, as far as the game goes, you know, it's absolutely brilliant. Just sort of sit there and watch the swirls. Yes, let's just watch. Let's stare. Okay, so I am going to go dock back at our office. So we've got lovely offices for our corporation here for all the different types of PvE, PvP, and industry. So I'm going to dock back here, and then we will end the video. Again, a lovely bit of probably an unrealistic turn.
Warp drive active.
But very nice, this ship, nonetheless. Let's get to dock. Lots of stations in the system, 22. Well, why do you need 22 stations? Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for being with us, and talk to you soon, everyone. Take care now, fly safe.